Hello, boils and ghouls, Slimebeast here, and I just wanted to do a little bit of an opinion video. It's called Why Jeff the Killer Doesn't Suck. Controversial statement. If you read creepypasta, which is short horror fiction on the internet for anyone who is new to the game, if you read creepypasta, Jeff the Killer is one of the most infamous creepypastas there is, probably. Maybe the most. I don't know. Actually, thinking about it, I think it might be the most infamous creepypasta. Some people love it. Some people love the character. People dress as him. People, Photoshop pictures. People write spin-off stories. Other people's, other people's, other people, just completely hate the story. They hate the character. It's garbage. It's disgusting and stupid. It's a troll pasta. What idiot wrote this? That's what people say. And, I don't give writers that much of a hard time because everybody starts out. Everybody has trial and error, and if you discourage people from going through the trial and error, they're just going to suck forever. So, think about that. But here's why Jeff the Killer doesn't suck, and I'm not going to go into the quality of the story. The quality of the story, is already belabored at this point. I'm going to look at the character, okay? People say that the character is unoriginal, that it's sort of like Heath Ledger's Joker. Well, the problem with that is, Heath Ledger's Joker is based on the Joker. So it's not like that was original to begin with. What I'm saying is there's a progression of character development throughout history. There's, Batman is based on a character called the Bat from a 1920s film. The Joker himself is based on the Laughing Man. Look that up. Or is it the Man Who Laughed? Good gracious, now I'm going to sound like an idiot, even more so than usual. But, nothing... A lot of people say nothing is original, and they use that as an excuse to cover up really terrible, unoriginal crap. This Transformers movie was derivative of the first ones. People say, well, there's nothing original out there. For the most part, I don't like that, excuse, because it gives a pass to absolute shit when people should have tried harder. But, there is, to a certain extent, it is true in certain cases. Jeff the Killer is based on, I'm going to go ahead and just pretend I've gotten into the mind of the author. Let's just, instead of quibbling about it, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Jeff the Killer was based on the Joker, Heath Ledger's character. So what? Slender Man looks a hell of a lot like the Anonymous character, the faceless suited man that Anonymous uses from 4chan. There are other things people have cited, like, oh, Slenderman's a ripoff of this. No, Slenderman's a ripoff of that. Really, there's always going to be something that something is based on. I mean, if you look at some of the greatest movies in history, Psycho, okay? Psycho, based on a novel, based on the murders, the real-life murders of Ed Gein. Everything is based on something else, and while there are valid criticisms of the story, and taste is subjective. You can like something and you can not like something, and it's nobody else's business, really. If you enjoy it, and, enjoy the hell out of it, and don't let anybody bother you about it. And if you don't enjoy it, just throw it away and never take another frickin' look. But, the whole thing is, if everything is based on something, whether it's an idea, an original concept that comes to somebody, usually you can find something that you could say, oh, it's based on this, even if the author didn't intend it. So, live and let live is what I say about that type of thing. People say, oh, the character is created to appeal to young people these days. He's just so emo and cool and, or goth or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And it's just to appeal to the young kids today and get them all excited about this, hip-looking character who's, he's so misunderstood and evil and he got revenge on his bullies. So what? You think stories weren't written to appeal to you when you were young? Everything that you love from your childhood or from your teen years was expressly created. I hate to say it, but, Trent Reznor, 9 Inch Nails, that's what people said about that. Back when I first started listening to them in the 90s, I guess, early, mid-90s, that's what people said. People said, oh, 9 Inch Nails, yeah, boy, you're so hip and emo, and, they didn't have that term then, but, oh, you're so dark and brooding, and you're so thoughtful. Oh, you love 9 Inch Nails. And, I look back on it fondly. I still like the music, and fuck everybody who didn't like it. They can listen to their own shit and don't tell me about it. I don't care. So I mean, of course it's created. Of course Jeff the Killer is created with the audience in mind. You're not the audience. The audience is a certain demographic of people, and people will say, "Yeah, stupid people," but come on, come on. It's created. He's created to appeal to a certain group, and excelled at it. I mean, you can't argue anything else. You can argue. You cannot argue the fact. You cannot. You cannot argue the fact that Jeff the Killer has excelled as a character. He's just taken root like, if we didn't have Slenderman, if that wasn't a character that was created, Jeff the Killer would be the face of creepypasta and internet horror fiction. I mean, think about that for a minute. If you go by who's the most famous, what are the most well-known characters? People will say Slenderman and, Jeff the Killer. That's what, that would be number one. That's a very, that's a very successful design and concept. And you have to give credit where credit is due on that. But, as I said, this is all going aside from how the story reads, aside from the origin, aside from, the plot. You can debate that night and day about, oh, it's terrible, and someone else saying, well, give a first-time raider his shot, I'm just saying Jeff the Killer, on the whole, doesn't really suck. Jason Voorhees is a huge dude in like a mechanic's jumpsuit or whatever the fuck, and a hockey mask. We could easily sit here and say, boy, that sure was creative, just putting a big tall guy in a hockey mask. What the fuck? What's next? A catcher's mask? Oh, why doesn't he wear why doesn't he wear a pitching helmet, or whatever the fuck? So it's you could pick apart anything like that. And Jason has been, there have been some really terrible, terrible Friday the 13th movies. And I would say probably you could probably find one or two Friday the 13th movies that are as hard to watch as people find Jeff the Killer hard to read. And does that mean, does Jason Voorhees suck? It's a classic, iconic character that's known the world over. And I feel like if we want to move forward with creepypasta, with short horror fiction on the webs, we need to sort of give credit where credit is due. We need to bolster young and new authors. You don't have to necessarily say, I love Laughing Jack. Laughing Jack is the best story. Oh, Laughing Jack is amazing. You don't have to say that. You don't have to not say that you hate it. Of course you can say whatever you want. But you have to kind of give credit. Laughing Jack is iconic now. Laughing Jack, Jeff the Killer, Slenderman, they are the next Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers. Mull that over. Those are, right now, proven worldwide, 100% unequivocally, they are the new horror icons. Name a horror icon to come out of Hollywood in the past decade. Name a character from a horror movie in the past decade. I mean, what would you say, Mama? Or, The Babadook? Or, yeah, those come and go, and that was an interesting movie. Goodbye to that movie. These characters are going to be around for decades. After the authors are dead, Jeff the Killer, Slenderman, they're going to still be iconic characters. So, does Jeff the Killer suck? Really? I mean, the name could use some work. That could have maybe used some extra revisions. The story could have used some polishing. But, I mean, you have a character named Jason, who's essentially Jason the Killer. They could have called him that in the Friday the 13th films, and we would be looking at the same exact type of character. A merciless killer who chops people up in brutal ways in questionably written stories. So yeah, that's something to think about. My personal opinion, Jeff the Killer doesn't suck. I think, it's an objective belief, but that's my opinion. What's your opinion? Leave it in the comments below. Let me know what you think. And also let me know if you'd like to hear just more random thoughts from me. I don't know why you would. God, this is awful. Are you still even listening? If you'd like to hear more thoughts of the quote-unquote great Slimebeast, I don't know. If you'd like to hear more thoughts on creepypasta, horror in general, even just movies in general, stories in general, anything, just, leave a like, maybe subscribe if you want to hear what else comes out of my face that looks like a butt. And, yeah, leave a comment on what you think. All right, Slimebeast out. Goodbye, everybody.